Hey everybody, it's Brad. Today I have a interesting new program to show you from Designer's Gallery software. This is called FontWorks. It's a lettering program and it has a lot of great features and does a lot of neat stuff. So let's open it up and I'll show you around. So we just open the program, double click the icon, and here we go. Now this has very similar layout to Masterworks 3. I've got this little navigator window. It lets you pan around in your design. I generally don't use this, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. This program is great because it lets you do a lot of things with the letters. It doesn't just kind of you bring the letters in and that's all you can do with them. You can actually do a fair amount of cool manipulation of these letters. To bring in some letters to create an embroidery design, we just go in, and this first one here in the lettering tab, if we look at across the top here, we've got these different options: text, circular text, blah blah blah. The one that says text just does straight across text, and it'll let you do a single or multiple line. So when I click this, my mouse cursor gets a little A attached to it, and I can click somewhere in my design field. So there we go. I've got the default text is my text. Real creative there, but it's got my text, so that's going to be the default thing. Anytime you click one of these, it's going to have my text in the lettering field. So the way we change this, so it's not saying my text, is we've got a little text area over here in the properties menu. Let's look over here to the right of the screen, and we've got the ability to type in whatever we want to say. I'll type in Meadow for Meadow, my daughter. And it doesn't do anything. Let's look back over here. My text here. It still says my text. That's because this doesn't do anything until we hit apply. So we can hit apply, and now we've got Meadow in there. Hooray. Maybe I don't like this particular font. This is a block font. It's kind of boring. So if we look here, we've got the name of the font right here. It says font, and under that it says block. If I click this arrow, I can see all these different fonts. And if I hover my mouse over them, this is cool here. It actually gives me a preview of each one of these fonts, so I can see what it's going to be before I select it. So I can scroll through all these. Now I went through and counted these earlier, and I counted 146 fonts. That is a ton of fonts. Your average embroidery machine's got what, between 12 and 20 fonts built into it. So with no matter what machine you have, if you have this program too, you exponentially are increasing the amount of fonts that you have. Not to mention the fact that you have much more control over these letters than you have over the letters that are built into your embroidery machine. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick a font here. We'll do this Giddy font, say, and hit apply. All right, so now we've got this nice little stylized meadow here. And now you might be looking at this and saying, Brad, that looks great and all, except what is all this business all over my letters here? We've got these little house-shaped icons and circles and blue dots and sideways houses and squares. What is all this? These are different tools that let you change the properties of your design. For instance, this one here in the middle, I can grab it and click and drag up, and it actually bows my letters up, and the one on the bottom does the same thing, so I can kind of create like a bannered effect. Similarly, these ones on the edges here, see how this is actually stretching out my design, and I can kind of stylize it according to how I want the design to look. Now it kind of looks like it's sweeping along. So that's what I mean by you've got more control over your letters than you do with the letters that are just built right into your embroidery machine. So look here, I can grab individual spacing. I can change the spacing between one letter and another. I can change the size of a single letter while leaving it all as one piece. So you really have a lot of neat stuff you can do with these. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the delete key, and we'll go ahead and bring in a new set of letters to mess with that haven't been all stretched out. So now another thing you're going to notice is when you look through here, some of these fonts have a little O next to them, right? So this one doesn't, and this one does. I'm going to pick this Cats font here. So and you see it's got the little O in my the preview pane here. We've got a little O, and there's an O next to it on there. What that means is that this font has the outline built into it. So I can actually change it from being a filled in letter here. If I go under my properties menu and choose under style here first, I'm going to change from my text, because that's boring. I'm going to make it say Meadow again. My favorite word. And we're going to change the style. So if we look under style, there's we're on default right now. If we hit the arrow key next to it, we can also choose run stitch style. I'll hit apply and show you what that does. So what this does is it's got the outline of these letters as a running stitch. Put it in 3D so we can see it better there. So look at this. I've got these letters are now an outline. I can make them as big as I want, basically. As long as they fit in the hoop, they'll work. And I could sew out letters like this on a quilt. Let's see, so we've got run. We've also got trapunto. We're going to hit apply, and look what this does. This actually is going to put an echo around my design, so you could really put this around on a quilt. Look at that. That is really, really neat the way that does that. It's got the little echoes in there. It makes a nice stylized thing. Maybe if you're making a quilt label or something like that, it gives it a really cool quilty look. Now, some fonts have more little options under here than others. Now, the last one I have in this Cats font is default with run, and what that does is it's going to combine, let me zoom in a little bit here with my zoom tool. See how we've got the running stitch going around the satin stitch of the letters. So that gives you kind of a more stylized look of your letters. That's fun. So we've got that. Let's pick a different font, see if we can find one that maybe has a few more options in it. Let's see, we'll try Classy. Let's see what Classy does. Hit apply here, so we got our letters as Classy, and see, look, now we've got more choices. We've got the run still, but now we've got one that's satin. Let's see what this does. So what we have now is satin stitch outline letters. Now, if you look, our satin stitches are overlapping in parts, so we might want to go in and adjust the settings of this. But now that we have satin stitch letters in here, if we go under, there's a satin tab on our properties, we can actually adjust the satin width and the satin density. So I can set these to only be 1 millimeter wide, and at this size, it's going to look a lot better. Now, here it's given me a warning that I've created satin segments the wrong way. In my experience, you can usually ignore this unless what you're doing is resizing the default letters. Like for instance, let me go ahead and go back to a default letter here. Style default, apply. If I take these letters and make them too big, then I end up, see, it didn't even give me the warning that time, but if I end up with a stitch from here to here that's too wide, then the letters just won't sew out. So that's that warning usually means that, but sometimes when you're playing with it, it'll get a little confused. So yeah, essentially you just want to make sure that you stick with the recommended sizes for each font, and as long as you're sticking within the recommended sizes for your fonts, then you can generally ignore when that little message comes up. How do I find out the default sizes for my fonts, Brad? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's this little question mark next to what font you have. If you click this, it'll show you minimum height is 0.39, maximum is 0.18. Here we have minimum height for satin outlines is 1.38. So it tells you if you're doing a satin outline that it has to be at least this big. If you're doing a run outline, it has to be at least this big, and it can only be so big. So you've got some recommendations in there, and if you exceed those, then it might not work perfectly. But this also shows you what letters are actually digitized. So here in Classy, we've got all uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, and then the various accents are all digitized in this font. So that's good to know. But now, okay, so say we want to change our font again, let's see, we got default, we had satin. Now there's also an applique option. We click applique and choose apply, and what this is going to do, here it's warning me about my satin segments here. I'm just gonna ignore that. It's actually yelling at me because of this jump stitch here and this jump stitch here and that. Masterworks does the same thing to you, and as long as you're not using a filled-in letter and you're using these applique letters or the satin letters, you can generally ignore that, like I said. So anyway, this is now an applique font. Now this is ridiculously large. You wouldn't be able to sew this out on any reasonable machine. So when you're doing applique letters, generally you would do one letter at a time. You wouldn't do like a whole word at a time. So instead of meadow, let's do M. M for meadow. And let's select a hoop. And the hoop button up here, if we choose this, we can select what hoop we're going to use. The big Elissimo hoop is 200 by 300, so we'll use that one. And we can see that this letter fits nicely within my big hoop on my Elissimo. I can increase the size of my letter. Here it's yelling at me again. Again, I'm just going to ignore that. Okay, and now I could sew this out, and it would be this would be an applique. It's going to sew out first the running stitch for my placement, and then I put my fabric down, fabric gets tacked down with the next running stitch, and then the satin stitch comes back to finish it. And that would look nice and pretty. So that's something cool that you can do with these. You can make applique letters with a lot of these fonts. I went through and also counted the fonts that have this O next to them for the outlines, and there are 61. So 61 out of 146 fonts have the outlines built in, so you can make custom appliques out of them, which is fun. Okay, so you also have the option to do circular text with this. So if I choose circular text and then left click anywhere in my design field, we end up with a circle, the text going on a circle. And Masterworks does this the same way, where we can go in and type in, let's look at the properties. On the upper, I can type something in. And then on the bottom, I can type something in. So upper and lower, and when I hit apply, we'll see that my text is applied. The upper part is on the top, the lower part is on the bottom, and I can increase or decrease the size of my circle with this little blue dot here. See that? So that's letting me kind of stylize how I want this to be. Now I could also bring in an embroidery design and merge it with this. So if I wanted to have this going around a design, I could go in here, choose merge, and then navigate through where my designs are. Here we've got a little boat. Now I can take my little boat, put it in here, grab my letters, and move them so that they are right around my boat. And I could save this design and sew it out. So similarly to what you can do on your embroidery machine, if you have one that has an editing capability, you can merge embroidery designs in and lay your letters out with them. So that's cool. So let's see, we had circular text. We've also got the ability to do monograms. So if we click the monogram button here and then click somewhere in the design field, we have several, oh look, we've got a lot of monogram fonts in here. These are all made to be monograms. Okay, so, you know, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 different monogram fonts. So you've got your classic diamond monogram here, which is kind of like, you know, the stylized where the leftmost letter is angled this way and the middle letter is angled on both sides and the last letter is angled on the other side. So we can go in and type in, I'm going to type in my initials, BAM. Zoom in a little bit on that. So we've got my nice diamond monogram there. And this, I can scale it up, I can scale it down, change the size of it, all that good stuff that we do with letters. So that's fun. We have also decors, which what these do is these will go and match the size of your design and fit around them. So this has a diamond that's going to go around my diamond monogram, or I could choose one that has just these little end caps on it here. It's yelling at me again. That's because of this jump stitch that it sees here. I imagine they'll probably patch the fact that it yells at you for everything you do on here. But anyway, I'm just going to ignore that. So we've got this big jump here, but that's okay. Your machine should trim that for you, even though it displays it on the screen. Let's see, what else can we do with these? We can just choose a different font here. And all the different monogram fonts, at least most of them, are going to have their own set of, see, this one doesn't, but I know that some of the other ones do, like Fancy, no, Fancy doesn't. Let's see, Flare, no. All right, well, I guess not all of them do. Let's see, on board, what do you got? Nothing. Round monogram. Ah, here we go. See here now, round monogram. This has some little decorations. So they don't all have the little decorations, I guess, but a few of them do, and that way you can kind of stylize your monograms with these little decorations that are built into the program, which is fun. Let's see what else we got. We can do vertical text. So up the next one over is vertical text, and this is basically what you would expect. You type in what you want it to say, and boom, you've got text going vertically. Without having to lay it out manually, which would be annoying. You also have text on a path. Click in here. It has these different pathways we can do. So say I want my text to be going on this little double curve here. See how it moves my letters along this line. And you can actually go in, and I think you can edit the baseline. Let's see, if I right-click on my letters. Yeah, I can choose to edit my baseline. So look at this. I can adjust how my curve is. Remember, when you buy the software, you get unlimited. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Let's see, go back to text on path, right click, edit baseline. There we go. Now if I right click, then it adjusts it. Remember, you get unlimited lessons with this, so you know, if you don't see exactly how I'm doing this stuff, I'll show you when you get the software. But see how it's hugging this line. So if I wanted to make a particularly shaped line and have my letters hug that line, you can do that with text on path. Let's see what else we got here. Text to stairs. Let's see what that does. Text to stairs. We click. Okay, so here, okay, what it's doing is it's stepping the letters down a little bit at a time. So they're following a line, and I bet if I change my line angle here, let's say 45 to 30. Yeah, we're just going on a diagonal line on a 30-degree line here. So that's pretty cool. I could see that being useful. And then word drops. What this does, this is going to be a little bit of a more advanced function, but essentially what you could do with this is, say I'm making, oh, I don't know, some kind of design for like an entire team of kids, right? Like maybe I'm making hats, and each kid on the side of the hat is going to be their letter, but on the front of the hat is going to be the logo for their baseball team, right? You could actually program this in, and I'll make a specific video on how this works. You can program it in so that all you do is you lay out the design once, and then you type in all of the kids' names, and it'll automatically create a whole bunch of embroidery designs that are gonna you know, be, you know, Danny and Billy and Stan and Philip and so on, that all have the logo laid out in the same way, so you don't have to go in and make 15 different designs. You just make the layout once, punch in the names, and it spits out all the logos for you know, if you're making a bunch of stuff at once. So that's what word drops does. So basically the program is really easy. You can just use the letters the way they come in if you want to. I can go in and choose, you know, a font and hit apply and type in my words. Let's see, FontWorks is cool, and it is. Hit apply. Okay, and I can take this and save it and sew it out, or I can go in and mess with it a little bit. I can, you know, bow the letters out, or I can mess with my spacing. I can change the style, all this kind of stuff. So it gives you a lot of freedom. Now this also, you're not limited to just these fonts that are built in. We also have the ability to use TrueType fonts in this. So if I click the TTF button here, then all these fonts that I'm seeing in here, these are all TrueType fonts that are built into my computer. So if you've got a font that, you know, is built in your computer that you want to use, you can go ahead and bring those in. Now they're not going to look quite as good as fonts that are pre-digitized, you know, that are built into the program, but you know, they still work pretty good. You can change them from a standard fill to a column stitch also in here under style. That actually makes them look a little better. You know, I'll have a specific video on using these different aspects of the program, using TrueType fonts and all of that kind of stuff. And remember I said that you can only make a satin stitch letter so big. Well, you can actually take one of those satin stitch letters. Here, let me go ahead and grab, get out of the TrueType fonts and go back to these ones that are the hand digitized fonts. So we'll just grab, oh, it doesn't matter, bookworm, fine. All right, so I'm going to say I want to do one letter and I want it to be huge. So I'll do the letter M, and I'm going to stretch this letter out so that it's enormous. Okay, now there's no way that this would be able to be sewn out. First of all, it's too big for my hoop, but even if it wasn't, these satin stitches here are going to be way too big for the sewing machine to deal with. So we can actually go into the fill settings of this and change the pattern type from satin to smooth and hit apply. Now this letter would sew out. I could sew it out. So if you've ever wanted to make a giant monogram and you just couldn't because your sewing machine won't let you make the letters big enough, well, this program will let you do it with any of the fonts. You can make them as big as you want. You just have to change them from a satin stitch to a smooth fill. It's easy to do that. Now again, I'm going to make videos on this, and you're going to get unlimited lessons when you buy the software from me. So speaking of buying the software, how much is this program? Well, it's going to be $299.95, and with that you're going to get unlimited one-on-one instruction for life from me. and you also are going to get these great videos where I'm going to show you how to use this to do various projects. So, you know, that's a lot of fonts to get for $2.99. I mean, I think it's a really good deal. So, yeah, that's really it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.